A brash champion publicly humiliated a legend, thinking he was just an old man past his prime. He didn't realize he'd just challenged Mike Tyson to a bare-knuckle lesson. The price of his arrogance was unforgettable. The air inside Las Vegas's Colossus Grand Arena was thick with the electric hum of anticipation. It was a cathedral of controlled chaos, where the scent of popcorn and expensive cologne mixed with the faint, metallic smell of ambition. Tonight, the annual Fight Night for Futures charity gala had drawn a constellation of stars, actors, musicians, and the new royalty of social media influencers, all gathered to watch boxing's brightest new talent. In the broadcast booth perched high above the masses, two generations of sports journalism sat side by side. Marcus "Mac" Riley, a man whose voice was as weathered and respected as the leather on a vintage speed bag, settled into his chair. His eyes, framed by the deep lines of a life spent studying the sweet science, scanned the crowd with a knowing calm. "Quite the spectacle tonight, Izzy," he rumbled into his microphone. Beside him, Isabella "Izzy" Vance's fingers danced across a tablet displaying real-time social engagement metrics. At 28, she was the sharp, data-driven future of sports commentary. "You mean Leo King's entrance budget? I heard the pyrotechnics alone cost more than a car. His metrics are off the charts tonight, Mac. He's a content goldmine." Mac's gaze drifted from the sea of cell phones to the VIP section near the ring. There was a time when a fighter's content was what he did inside those ropes. Speaking of which, the broadcast camera followed his cue, panning across a table of glittering celebrities before settling on a figure who seemed to absorb the light around him. He wore a simple, crisp black suit, no tie. He sat with a profound stillness, a block of granite in a river of champagne bubbles. Even at 55, the architecture of his power was unmistakable in his broad shoulders and thick neck. The iconic tattoo that curled around his left eye was a stark reminder of a history written in raw, unapologetic force. Mike Tyson. And there he is, Mac's voice softened with reverence. Iron Mike. A living legend in the house, not just a boxing champion, but a cultural phenomenon. Izzy's eyebrows arched. "My dad talked about him like he was a mythical creature. Didn't know he still came to these things." "He doesn't, not often," Mac replied, his focus locked on the former champion. "Which tells you the man still loves the sport. He's here to respect it." Suddenly, the arena lights plunged into darkness. A gut-shaking bass line dropped, and pillars of fire erupted from the entrance tunnel. Through the smoke and strobing lights emerged Leo, the Comet King. 24 years old, undefeated, with a physique sculpted for Instagram and a smile engineered for sponsorships. His silk robe was a galaxy of embroidered logos and shimmering crystals. As Leo reached the ring, he shadowboxed for his screaming fans before disrobing with a theatrical flourish. Across the ring, his opponent, a journeyman with honest grit but a fraction of the hype, looked on with quiet resolve. The bell rang. Leo exploded from his corner. It was a blur of motion, a blindingly fast jab-cross combination that snapped his opponent's head back. He was a whirlwind of controlled violence, but between combinations, he'd preen for the cameras and wink at the ringside starlets. Midway through the second round, a devastating right hook sent the journeyman crashing to the canvas. It was over. Leo climbed the turnbuckle, flexing for the adoring crowd, the personification of modern, undefeated arrogance. As the medics tended to his fallen opponent, Leo King grabbed the ring announcer's microphone, his chest heaving with exertion and ego. 25-0, he roared, the sound echoing through the Colossus Grand. 25 have tried, 25 have failed. Tell me. Who's next? Who has the guts to step into the comet's orbit? The crowd chanted his name, Leo. 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 His eyes, glistening with sweat and triumph, scanned the VIP section, drinking in the applause from the actors and musicians. But then his gaze landed on Mike Tyson. The legend wasn't cheering. He wasn't booing. He wasn't even watching Leo. He was speaking quietly to his friend, David Chen, his expression one of calm, almost detached observation. For a personality like Leo, built on a foundation of constant validation, this void of applause was more insulting than any boo. It was a black hole of disrespect that his ego could not tolerate. The smile on his face tightened. He raised the microphone again, pointing directly at the former heavyweight champion of the world. A wave of murmurs rippled through the arena. "Hey! Iron Mike!" Leo shouted, a mocking lilt in his voice. "I see you sitting there. What's the matter? Don't like seeing how real champions fight these days." In the broadcast booth, Izzy's fingers froze over her tablet. "Is he?" "He is," Mac confirmed, his voice a low groan of disbelief. "That young man has no idea what he's doing." Leo, feeding off the crowd's shocked energy, doubled down. "You were a killer back in the day, I'll give you that. My dad loved your highlight reels. But this is 2025. The speed, the footwork, it's a different universe now. This is what the baddest man on the planet really looks like." In the corner of the ring, Leo's veteran coach, Pops Mitchell, a man with a face like a worn leather glove, rushed forward. "Leo, shut your mouth. Now," he hissed, grabbing his fighter's arm. Leo shrugged him off. "Relax, Pops. It's good for the brand." He turned back to Tyson, his voice dripping with condescension. "Or what, you think you still got it? Think that old man power works in a real ring? I bet that famous lisp is faster than your hands are these days." A collective gasp swept through the arena. The disrespect was raw and ugly. David Chen, sitting beside Tyson, started to rise, his face a mask of fury. But Tyson, without looking at him, placed a calming hand on his friend's forearm. He remained seated, his posture unchanged. But he did one thing. He stopped talking to David. And for the first time that night, he turned his full, undivided attention to the young champion in the ring. He didn't glare. He simply looked. And in that quiet, focused gaze, the entire atmosphere of the arena began to change. The hesitant chant started in the upper decks, a scattered chorus of disbelief and hope. "Tyson! Tyson! Tyson!" Then, Mike Tyson stood up. It was not a dramatic movement. It was a slow, deliberate unfolding, as if a mountain were rousing itself from a long slumber. Yet that simple act commanded more attention than all of Leo King's pyrotechnics combined. The scattered chants merged, growing louder, more insistent, a rhythmic roar that shook the arena. "Tyson! Tyson! Tyson!" Leo's cocksure grin wavered, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, quickly masked by more bravado. "Whoa, look at that! The legend rises. You actually want a piece of this?" Tyson didn't answer. He took off his watch, a simple, elegant timepiece, and handed it to David Chen without a word. His eyes never left Leo. Then, he started walking toward the ring. The crowd parted before him like the Red Sea. A wave of awe and fear rippled through the VIP section. Phones were raised, not to capture a celebrity, but to document a moment that felt primal, dangerous, and real. Event organizers scrambled in the aisles, their headsets buzzing with panicked voices. Security guards formed a line, then looked at each other, uncertain if their job was to stop the legend or simply get out of his way. "Mac, I'm getting word from the producers," Izzy said, her voice tight with excitement. "This is not scripted. This is completely off-program. They don't know what to do." "You don't do anything," Mac replied, his voice a reverent whisper. "You just bear witness." As Tyson reached the ringside steps, the arena fell into a hush so complete that the hum of the air conditioning was audible. He moved with an unnerving fluidity, ducking between the ropes as if he had done it yesterday. He stood on the canvas, slightly shorter than Leo, decades older, yet somehow taking up all the oxygen in the ring. The first genuine traces of doubt crossed Leo's face. The marketing stunt had just materialized into a 240-pound reality of myth and muscle. "Alright, old-timer," Leo stammered, trying to reclaim control. "You want to do this? Let's make it interesting. No gloves. Bare knuckle. Unless you're scared you'll break those brittle old hands." The suggestion was meant as a final, emasculating taunt. He expected a refusal, a negotiation. Tyson responded with 2 words, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that seemed to emanate from the floor itself. "Take them off." Leo's blood ran cold. His coach, Pops, just shook his head and stepped back from the corner, a gesture of surrender. The young champion looked down at his own gloved hands, then back at the quiet, waiting legend. For the first time, Leo, the Comet King, understood that he had not orchestrated a viral moment, he had summoned a storm. There was no bell. There was no referee. There was only the thick, suffocating silence of 15,000 people holding their breath, and the 2 figures in the center of the ring. Leo, driven by a cocktail of fear and adrenaline, did what he always did, he attacked. He exploded forward, launching a 3-punch combination with blinding speed. A jab, a cross, a hook, all technically perfect, all thrown with the intention of ending it before it truly began. And all of them hit nothing but air. Tyson didn't retreat. He simply wasn't there. With a subtle dip of the shoulder, a slight bob of the head, a minute shift of his weight, he made Leo's lightning-fast strikes look clumsy and slow. He moved with a brutal economy that had been honed over a lifetime. It was the peekaboo style, not as a historical artifact, but as a living, breathing masterclass in defensive genius. Confusion flickered across Leo's face, quickly hardening into frustration. He pressed forward, unleashing a furious barrage. He was faster, younger, had a longer reach. None of it mattered. Tyson slipped and weaved inside Leo's punches, so close that the leather of Leo's hand wraps hissed past his ears. Leo was fighting a ghost, a phantom who anticipated his every move. The crowd watched in mesmerized silence. This wasn't a fight, it was an education. "It's like watching a man try to punch water," Mac whispered into his mic. "Leo is expending all his energy, and Mike is just being." Gasping for air, his arms beginning to feel heavy, Leo stepped back. "Stand and fight, old man," he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. Tyson obliged. He stopped weaving. He planted his feet. As Leo threw a wide, looping right hand, Tyson moved inside it. It wasn't a punch for the cameras. It was a short, piston-like strike, a left hook to the body that landed just under Leo's ribcage. The sound was not a loud crack, but a sickening, dense thwack. Leo King folded as if his strings had been cut. All the air in his body rushed out in a desperate, audible hiss. A shockwave of pure agony, an agony he had never conceived of, paralyzed him. It wasn't a knockout blow. It was a message. It was a taste of a power so absolute it didn't need to be fully unleashed. The young champion's eyes, wide with shock and pain, looked at Tyson. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something he had never shown in his life, pure fear. That fear curdled into a final, desperate rage. With a guttural roar, Leo launched himself forward, throwing a wild, reckless haymaker. Tyson saw it coming from a mile away. He ducked under the looping punch, his body coiling like a spring. He pivoted on his back foot, channeling power from the canvas up through his entire body. The resulting punch was not a long, dramatic wind-up. It was a short, explosive right hook, a thing of terrible beauty and perfect mechanics, that traveled no more than 6 inches. It connected with the side of Leo's jaw. There was a sharp, final crack. Leo's eyes went blank. The lights went out before his body even registered the command to fall. He collapsed to the canvas, a completely limp, unconscious heap. The comet had been extinguished. For 3 heartbeats, the Colossus Grand was utterly silent. The only sound was the quiet thud of Leo's body hitting the mat. Then, the arena erupted in a deafening roar, a sound of collective awe and catharsis. In the center of the ring, Mike Tyson did not raise his arms. He did not smile. He looked down at the fallen young man, his expression unreadable, not triumphant, not angry, but with the quiet acknowledgement of a lesson delivered. He watched as medics and a frantic Pops Mitchell vaulted into the ring, then he turned and walked calmly away. Backstage was a swarm of chaos. Reporters and cameramen surged forward, held back by a makeshift line of security. "Mike!" "A comment," they shouted. "What just happened?" Tyson, flanked by David Chen, continued walking, his focus inward. But Izzy Vance, the young journalist, managed to slip past a guard. "Mr. Tyson," she called out, breathless. "Why? You had nothing to prove." Tyson paused, his gaze meeting hers. For a moment, she saw the weight of his entire history in his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was a low, philosophical rumble. "Respect is a conversation." He was shouting. I had to speak his language so he could hear. He then continued down the hall, leaving Izzy standing with her recorder, realizing she had just been given the soul of the story. The scene in the medical room was grim. Leo was sitting up on an examination table, an ice pack pressed to a jaw that was already swelling grotesquely. His eyes were fixed on the floor. "I want a rematch," he muttered, the words slurring. "An official bout." "I slipped." "Slipped?" Pops Mitchell's voice, usually warm, was cold as steel. "You didn't slip, son. You were dismantled. You were humbled. He taught you a lesson you refused to learn any other way. He got lucky." Leo shot back, his voice cracking. "It was a lucky shot." "Was it?" Pop said, his voice quiet but sharp. "He hit you twice, Leo. The first time, he gave you a warning. The second time, he gave you the receipt. The only luck you had tonight is that he chose to let you up after that body shot. He could have ended your career. Be thankful he only ended your arrogance." Leo finally looked up, his face a mixture of pain, rage, and dawning, unbearable truth. The tears welling in his eyes were not from the pain in his jaw, but from the shattering of the myth he had built around himself. He had been weighed, measured, and found wanting. Leo, the comet king, vanished from the face of the earth. His social media went dark. The sponsorships dried up. The hype machine fell silent. Rumors swirled, but the truth was found far from the glitter of Las Vegas, in a grimy, honest-to-God boxing gym in Philadelphia. There, day after day, a clean-shaven Leo King worked. No entourage, no cameras. Just the rhythmic thud of gloves on a heavy bag, sweat dripping onto a stained concrete floor. He was learning how to fight all over again, this time from the inside out. Around that same time, a cell phone video went viral, but for different reasons. It showed Mike Tyson in a small, underfunded community gym in Brownsville, Brooklyn. He was patiently teaching a group of at-risk teenagers how to wrap their hands, how to stand, how to channel their anger into discipline. He wasn't performing for a camera, he was just there, giving back in the quietest way possible. Then, 1 year to the day after the unforgettable night at the Colossus Grand, a new video appeared on Leo King's dormant accounts. It wasn't a hype reel. It was just Leo, sitting on a stool in his Spartan gym. The swagger was gone, replaced by a quiet humility. "A year ago," he began, his voice steady, "I thought strength was about being undefeated. I thought respect was something you demand. I was wrong." He took a deep breath. "I was taught a lesson by a man who showed me that real power is control. Real respect is earned in silence. That's why I'm announcing my indefinite retirement from professional boxing." He went on to announce the formation of the Second Chance Foundation, using his remaining funds to help young fighters avoid the pitfalls of ego that had nearly destroyed him. The video ended with a simple black screen and text, "Thank you, Mike." That evening, In his home, Tyson watched the video, a small, knowing smile on his face. He turned off the screen and looked out the window at the setting sun, a quiet warrior at peace. The baddest man on the planet had discovered that the most powerful fight is the one against yourself, and the greatest victory is helping someone else win theirs. That night in Vegas, a cocky champion's streak ended, but something far more important began. A story of humility, redemption, and the true meaning of strength. What do you think was the most important lesson Leo learned? Let us know in the comments below. We ask that you please comment with respect for everyone involved. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs to see it. You won't want to miss what we have coming next.